Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Agricultural Advisory Committee of the City of Abbotsford for Thursday, March 7th, 2024. Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Moved by Matt, second by Randy. All in favor? No one opposed? Carried. And an adoption of the minutes, please. Moved by Matt, seconded by Spencer. All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, first item, please.
Great, 4 items for the committee today. First is item 6.1. This is non-farm use application for 1735 Mount Lehman Road. Assistant Planner Nick Wowling will provide an introduction, and I believe Mr. McKenzie is online, the consultants who also wish to speak. Over to you, Nick.
All right. Good afternoon. Well, it'll be fine like this. Anyway, all right. The city had received an application for a non-farm use within the ALR, and the applicant is requesting authorization to use 1.5 acres of their property for outdoor storage of construction-related materials. The subject property is located in the Pierreville area, south of Highway 1 and north of Abbotsford Airport. The subject property is located within the ALR on the west side of Mount Lehman Road. The OCP designation is Agriculture 1 Uplands. The property is zoned A1 Agricultural 1 zone. There is an approximate 30-meter streamside protection bylaw setback for Fish Trap Creek from the top of bank, and this figure is an approximation of 30 meters. The soil capability is 2 peat and 8 gravel and sand. This figure shows the condition when the first non-farm use application was made in 2014. That was considered and denied by council, and the current site condition as of 2023. And the applicant has provided this site plan to show the area of the outdoor storage of construction-related material. At this time, I ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that council forward the application to the ALC with support as presented, or forward the application to the ALC with support with changes, or forward the application to the ALC with no comment, or deny and not forward the application to the ALC. And I will turn it over to Lee.
This application, long-time resident in Abbotsford, him and his family. They have different operations that going quota with. See, the context in the report says used for storage, but he has a current quota that he uses.
Lee, I just want to interrupt. We can't hear you very well. You're kind of cutting in and out.
Okay, hold on here. Is that any better?
We'll see. Where to go? We can only see half your face when you speak. That's better. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So anyway, his chicken quota is current. He does use it. Some of the things I'd just like to talk about is the 30-meter setback. We met on site with planner Christy from the environment department and Daniela, who was the planner. And we went through everything. We've come to an agreement with Christy on what setbacks she would like to see and what she would like to have done. My correspondence with Daniela, she's indicated there be support for a variance. And she further sent me emails stating that she would send me information on how to go about the variance. In her stipulations that she would like to see done.
You're cutting out again.
Hear me now?
No,
Yeah. 1 second. Is that any better?
yep, good.
Okay. So anyway, I have emails from Daniela and we had correspondence. We met on site and we discussed all the issues in this report. Don't know if you heard, but the stream side setback was agreed with Christy, what we would do and she would accept. There's a bunch of other conditions they would like to have done in the review report. And I do have an email saying she was sending me information on how to apply for a variance, because in her review letter said the staff may be able to support a variance just for the storage area.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
No.
Matt, please go ahead.
Are those chicken barns on that property actively being used?
He told me he uses them throughout the year, but not all year long. And he has a quota, and Blake took the quota number, so I'm not sure if Blake looked into the quota when the last time it was active. I'm not sure.
Anyone else?
I do have a
Yes,
question.
please, Spencer.
It's more general in nature.
Mhm.
My profession is realtor. We deal with a lot of things. One of the things is with these applications for non-adhering land use, say what provisions are there to protect the next owner should there be environmental impacts? Say, for example, we have underground oil storage legislation now. So say we have construction storage, we're looking at maybe leaching of preservatives or whatever it is. And it's situated on, I think the land is classified as peat. So it's quite porous and it will absorb whatever contaminants that are leached there. And it would be hard to remediate, or it would be costly. So what provisions are there that council does, or we can, or how can we discuss that?
Through the chair, as far as protection for future owners, in any of those cases, that offense simply runs with the land. So as a new property owner, that's part of the due diligence process, and that owner will be incurring that responsibility.
I might add that constructed a lot of glass greenhouses in Delta. And, they did the same thing. They had to put provisions in there for if the glass broke and there was some glass in the ground and someone bought it, how did they protect that? So it's about putting provisions in every permit.
I guess my concern, which is pointed out by the Ministry of Agriculture, and it relates to not just this one, but several of these applications after it in this agenda. As they point out, industrial uses of this nature drive up speculative pricing on the ALR land and on adjacent parcels to the subject parcels. So I'm concerned about the viability of farming, particularly in the lower mainland. The prices are going so high, nobody can afford to get into farming anymore. If it's handed down to family, maybe you're going to be okay, but there are farmers out there trying to sell their property and they can't sell it. It's too costly. So I think that's a valid point. I don't know, Kim?
I'd like to emphasize the other valid point, I think, it doesn't fit with the city bylaw. The city does have provision for a certain size of home occupation, right? And beyond that size, they deem it sort of goes beyond a home occupation, and it's really a commercial industrial use. It should be put into the commercial industrial area, and those people are paying higher taxes. So there's a lot of pressure on the ALR to try to get away with things because you're paying less tax, right? So it really adds to the pressure, and it's really up to, unfortunately, it's up to the enforcement system, which is the local government and then also the ALC to try to rectify that. So that's a huge issue. We're looking at it case by case, but cumulatively, it's a big issue.
Yeah.
And you have this weird tax climate then within one jurisdiction. So of course people are going to try to get onto the ALR if they can get away with it.
Well, I think you have to take a note too that this person's been living on this property in his family for a lot of years. This just didn't happen 6 months ago. So, obviously, he builds agricultural buildings as well, and over time, it's been more and more stored because it's expensive to dry industrial land and pay agricultural prices for agricultural buildings to build them. It doesn't work out. Building agricultural buildings is very expensive right now.
All right, I don't see any more questions. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? We do need something. That's what we're here for.
I'll make a motion to not support concerns with the stream setback and also like Spencer touched on and Kim, that it's creating speculative pressure.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have a seconder? Seconded
May
by
I ask,
Sarah.
can I repeat can I have the motion repeated? I just couldn't quite hear
Yes.
it.
The motion is to not support due to issues, I'm sorry, Matt, tell me if I'm getting it wrong, the stream side setback issues and the inappropriate use of the agricultural property, which is driving up prices on farmland. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So that's actually number 4, is to deny and not forward, because there is no motion there to not support.
Thank you. To deny,
Just
to
make sure.
the recommend denial.
Right, yeah.
That's what you're, yes, okay.
Just wanted to
To
Got that?
recommend to council
I'll
not
second
to
that.
support.
Yes, okay. Thanks, Spencer. Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Is anyone opposed? No, motions. Randy, you're opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion's carried. Next item, please.
All right, next one is item 6.2. This is an ALC non-farm use application for 27687 Nathan Avenue, and Nick will walk us through a presentation.
There we go. The city has received an application for a non-farm use within the ALR. The applicant is requesting an authorization to use an accessory building for countertop production and storage. The subject property is located in the Bradner Mount Lehman area, north of Highway 1 and east of the border of the township of Langley. The subject property is located within the ALR on the north side of Nathan Avenue. The property is zoned A1, Agricultural Zone 1, this is the OCP, sorry. The official community plan is Agriculture 1 Uplands. And the zoning is Agriculture 1 A1. The soil capability is 9 till and 6 silt and clay. The property is partially located within the streamside protection area of Nathan Creek, and it is also located within a steep slope development permit, but there are no new buildings that are being proposed currently right now. This is a site plan showing the area of the accessory building for the countertop production and storage. At this time, I ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that council forward the application to the ALC with support as presented, or forward the application to the ALC with support with changes, or forward the application to the ALC with no comment, or deny and not forward the application to the ALC. And Lee is the file applicant for this project as well.
Okay, please go ahead, Lee. We can't hear you again, Lee. You're muted.
Sorry, this application was submitted to the city of Abbotsford in 2018. We're in 2024, and it's finally come up. He started off as a home accessory business, very small. He has expanded, and obviously the construction of countertops is challenging on farmland. Whether A1 should be the correct designation for this property is in question, simply because this whole property is on a massive hill. There's very few flat areas there. In the report, the topographical map is a little skewed. There's a flat area at the top where he has a house, and there's a flat area where the shop is and some parking, and the rest of the property is steep slope. So to say he could do agricultural farming or plant stuff, I think that's far-fetched. I think everybody knows right across the street is the Gloucester Industrial Park, which has taken up all kinds of farms and converted them into industrial buildings. So, it's about all I have to say about it. I mean, he has never hid anything. We put this forward application 6 years ago, and all of a sudden now we're dealing with it. I'm not quite sure why it took 6 years, but.
All right, thank you, Lee. Comments or questions from the committee? Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recognize the challenge with agriculture on a property like this. There's no stream side setbacks or environmental concerns on this property, are there?
I can address that concern for the committee. It is noted that it is in a natural environment development permit area. However, that stream is across the street, so we don't anticipate any challenge there. The parcel is also located in a steep slope development permit area. But generally speaking, that just means geotechnical oversight for any construction, that sort of thing. Generally, that's a detail that we worked out at a subsequent approval stage.
Okay. I guess I would make a motion to support with some hesitancy, I do have concerns about the speculative nature that this does fuel. But realistically, I question whether this should even be ALR land. It's at the top of a hill with 30% of the property under steep slope. So, agriculture is very, very limited in that regard.
Okay, do we have a seconder? We don't have a seconder. Okay. All right.
Another motion.
Do we have another motion then? Randy, please
Yeah, I
go
do.
ahead.
Yeah,
Yes?
I would have to recommend that we don't support this on the basis that this is agricultural land. It was purchased, as my understanding, it was purchased at the time as agricultural land, and the owner should have taken that into account before purchasing it.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? No.
I tend to agree with
You're gonna
Randy on
second
that,
it? Okay, thank you, Spencer. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next, item 6.3, this is an ALC non-farm use application for 1794 Gladwin Road. And planner Anne Marie will provide introduction, and Mr. McKenzie will also speak to this item.
Good afternoon. So this is an application for non-farm use to permit the continued use of an accessory building for farm equipment maintenance and some tractor repairs. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Okay, thank you. The subject property is located at 1794 Gladwin Road. The subject property is located at the terminus of Gladwin Road, adjacent to Highway number 1. It is approximately 2 hectares or 5 acres and within the ALR. The OCP land use designation is Agriculture 1 Uplands, and it is zoned Agricultural 1 Zone. The soils are 4 sand and silt. There is an existing approximately 500 square meter accessory building that's being used to repair vehicles and surrounded by approximately 1,300 square meters of disturbed area associated with the use of this building. The applicant has an issued business license for a home occupation business that was reviewed under the previous zoning bylaw regulations. The non-farm use application is the result of an active bylaws non-compliance issue that has confirmed by site visits that commercial vehicles are being parked overnight and the uses associated with the accessory structure do not comply with the zoning bylaw nor the conditions for the issued home occupation level 3 business license. In their letter of intent, the applicant describes the vehicles being repaired as used for hauling agricultural feed, supplies, and materials for farms in the Lower Mainland. A review of the pertinent legislation has determined that vehicles that transport people or goods on a highway are defined as commercial vehicles, and those designed and adapted for use in an agricultural operation are farm vehicles. A farm vehicle is not intended for the transportation of people or goods on a highway. The vehicles being serviced on the subject property do not comply with the definition of farm vehicles and therefore are commercial vehicles. The A1 zone does not permit the repair of commercial vehicles. The home occupation regulations permit the repair and maintenance of farm vehicles and equipment, but do not permit the repair and maintenance of commercial vehicles. The home occupation level 3 business license was issued based on the conditions of the previous zoning bylaw and the applicant's submission to the city that stated the business complied with the conditions of the zoning bylaw to permit the use. Unfortunately, the use for this was at the time 24 square meters. Now, the current zoning bylaw permits an occupation level 4, which would allow the repair of vehicles defined only as farm vehicles, and it would allow for 112 square meters for this use. Currently, the use as we see it does not comply with the level 4 business as it is greater than the 500, or at 500 square meters, it's greater than the permitted 112. The applicant appears to be maintaining commercial vehicles. The area associated with storage is for commercial vehicle or the customer vehicles, which is not permitted. And the Ministry of Agriculture has noted that these kinds of uses are best situated on properties that are appropriately zoned to permit commercial vehicle repairs. At this time, I would ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that the application be forwarded to the ALC with support as presented, forward the application to the ALC with support with changes, forward the application to the ALC with no comments, or finally deny and not forward the application to the ALC. And again, this is Lee McKenzie, happens to be the consultant on this file as well.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, just a few things on this one. When bylaws first came by, there was 2 trucks being parked there, one regularly and one part-time. That issue has been resolved. Bylaws has been back several times. There's no trucks being parked there, so that's a little bit incorrect. Secondly, where you call a disturbed area, I don't know if you noticed, but it's planted with blueberries, and they also process blueberries there, so that area is used for blueberry production as well. He does fix a lot of farm equipment in there, and he has fixed some commercial trucks. That's why this application came forward. To say he's only fixing commercial vehicles is inaccurate, and there's no proof of that. He had several tractors there, he had several other buildings, he had several other vehicles with farm plates there as well, which bylaws did see when they came. So, this is why he asked me to put this application forward. Obviously, he can use part of the building if he complies with the bylaw, as you just previously stated. But he asked me to put this application forward and make sure these comments were made.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the committee? No? How about a motion?
I go first?
Okay, go ahead, Spencer. Yeah, you take the lead this time.
I got a feeling where I do not want to support this. Due to the nature that my previous question and user you answered that is that with this there's risk of ground contamination, and I get that doing due diligence is the nature of the business and the requirement, but there's no glaring signs. You know, the business could be wrapped up and then the property can be listed, and you can't really. It would be hard to go back to find those records to do due diligence for the clients, whereas say a dry cleaner, right? Like you're buying a property that is downstream from a dry cleaner, you would know to do your due diligence and check for soil contamination at that point. There's not a lot to go back and to dig deeper. It'd be hard to find. So moving forward, my question is there a possibility of putting a covenant or a notation on title so that when you do pull title, you're able to see these issues and to inquire further to do the proper due diligence?
Sure.
So that's an interesting question. So putting a covenant on title would require the current owner to oblige to that. We have our own tracking system, software tracking system of things that have gone on a property, and when someone is interested in acquiring a property, they can come to the city and seek some of that information. So in this case, there is a non-compliance file on the property, and that information could be shared at that time as to what that activity was.
So if I were to pull the title on this, so how would I know? I have to come to the city to find out.
You'd come to the city as part of that due diligence, yeah.
So wouldn't putting a notation or a covenant on title requesting that would streamline the process and would protect the public a little bit better?
Possibly. If we did that on every infraction and non-compliance file we had in the city, that would be quite a task and a resource management issue, I think.
Okay, can we, moving forward, on each application, request to be put on title or do something similar so that moving forward, we establish a timeline where, from this day forward, these would be easily sought out and the public would be further protected?
I don't think we want to get in the business of registering a covenant on title for every infraction. I don't think that would be a good use of the staff resources to do that. Like I said, we have records of it, and if someone wishes to inquire as to what's happened on the property as part of a due diligence when they're purchasing it, that could be accommodated.
Maybe I could jump in and elaborate here a little bit too. So the province does have rules and regulations regarding contaminated sites and the contaminated sites registry.
Yes.
So with every rezoning application and with every building permit, property owners are to disclose whether or not there were commercial and industrial uses that occurred on a parcel. And then the province gets to choose whether or not we can proceed with our approval or whether or not further due diligence is required. So the province already has some mechanisms in place to help raise the profile of some of this contamination. And there are processes in place there as well that try to raise the profile of these types of uses where there are higher risks involved.
Okay, with that information shared, would this be on that registry, this property, subject property?
Again, if we receive a subsequent zoning application and there's commercial industrial uses that meet the schedule, then the applicant would have to disclose that and we would be obligated to forward that on to the province for further direction.
Right. So the nature of what's, sorry.
I would just like to add that if you want to put a covenant on everybody's title, what about the backyard mechanic who has got oil all over his property on his driveway? I mean, you'd have covenants on every property in BC.
I don't think that's relevant to this. This is agricultural land. We're not talking Harry's apples and oranges here. So, and that's, I guess.
My clients buy agricultural properties and they get a phase 1 done if they have any concerns whatsoever. If it goes to a phase 2, they get that done.
Well, I'm not suggesting we're putting a covenant or requesting a covenant be put on title. I'm asking for clarification whether there is protection provided for the consumer or the public at this level.
Right.
So moving forward, if there isn't, why can't we? And I'm just opening up for discussion, not saying each non-farm use application that comes along with a commercial aspect to it would be requested to put a covenant on title. Trying to work on this cooperatively and collaboratively on this moving forward.
I think that might be a discussion for
Sorry.
another. No, that's okay. I'm glad you brought it up and they are good questions, but I think that's not really the process right now. I mean, whether we do that or not is, I think, another discussion. We have to just look at what tools are available to us today and what is the situation today, so.
So I would deny it on the fact that the agricultural
Recommend
use is
denial?
not
Okay,
best served.
thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Matt. All in favor? No one's opposed, motion's carried. Thank you. Next item.
All right, the last item 6.4, this is an ALC boundary realignment for 5703 Bell Road and 34339 Harris Road. And
Okay, I just want to interrupt because I'm going to leave now. This doesn't have anything to do with me.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. This is a boundary realignment within the ALR. Not sure it's working. Oh, wait, wrong button, sorry. The subject properties are located at 5703 Bill Road and 34339 Harris Road. The subject properties are located near the intersection of Bell and Harris Roads in Matsqui Prairie. They are approximately 1.2 hectares or 3 acres and 4 hectares, 10 acres, and within the ALR. Page Creek forms the northern boundary of the larger property. The official community plan land use designation is Agriculture 2 Lowlands, and they are both zoned Agricultural 2 zone. The soils are primarily 4 sand and silt and a portion of 3 silt and clay. The proposed subdivision would create one lot of approximately 4.2 hectares with all the poultry barns and one solely residential lot of approximately 1.0 hectares. The applicants had a previous application with the city for the proposed boundary realignment, which was reviewed by the city's approving officer. The approving officer was prepared to permit the subdivision, provided the septic system for Harris Road property was located entirely on the proposed new lot. In the opinion of the approving officer, the required easement over the existing septic system would be an obstacle to future development on the new larger lot. The applicants were not prepared to make this change, citing financial concerns, so the approving officer rescinded the preliminary approval, and therefore it must be permitted by the ALC. The barns are currently located, 2 of them on Harris Road, and those barns are accessed by an internal roadway across the property at Bell Road. There is 1 driveway from Harris Road for the residents and 2 driveways from Bell Road, 1 for the residents and 1 for the poultry barns. Part of the rationale from the applicant for the boundary realignment was to allow access to all the poultry barns from 1 parcel and to prevent unnecessary disturbance of farmland with the construction of a new access roadway. Staff have shown that a second permitted access from Harris Road can be constructed to access the barns, which could be located on lands that are not currently in production. This would also be supported by the comments provided by the Ministry of Agriculture. This solution could allow access to the barns from each parcel without the need for any access agreements, would not require an easement over the existing septic system, and would continue to support 2 productive farms without creating a rural residential lot within an active farming area. At this time, I would ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council to either forward the application to the ALC with support as presented, forward the application to the ALC with support with changes, forward the application to the ALC with no comments, or finally deny and not forward the application to the ALC. The applicant's representative is here and has a presentation as well.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And thank you, members of the committee. My name is Isaac. I'm from OTG Developments, and I represent the owners of this property, Ken and Mary Peters, who sit over there. So I don't have to give much because I appreciated Anne Marie's presentation. It gave much of the background, but it's true we did have a PLA for this originally. Blake Collins, the approving officer at the time, reviewed it, asked several questions. The answers provided. Whoops, that was the wrong button. He asked if the farm operations would continue. Yes, no barn storage would be lost and quota would remain the same. The proposal would enable future farm expansion as, if the properties were sold today, they wouldn't need new access. And the proposed new lot, Lot 2, the smaller one, does still have lots of vacant area, which could be used for agriculture. The condition, of course, that we build the new septic field on the proposed Lot 2 was the issue, and why Blake could not support the application under the Agricultural Land Reserve Act. So the agricultural history on the property, the Peters have a significant history on the property, purchasing it originally in 1947. Prairie Chicken Farms was later incorporated in 78 when Ken purchased the property himself. Then they expanded onto Harris Road with the 2 barns that existed there, just extending their access over from Bell. It created the minimum amount of disturbance over the rest of the land. The poultry barns are accessed only through there and also have a water access to the municipal water system through Bell Road. So the reasons in support of the application summarized are that the barns would remain the farm would continue to function as it does now without any additional disturbance. Of course, the Ministry of Agriculture in the review letter did recommend that a access could be put in there. But one thing I fear they're overlooking is that these are poultry barns and there are guides to how to create accesses that are safe to poultry barns. The BC Poultry Biosecurity Reference Guide outlines the standards that they expect for accesses to poultry barns, saying that paved driveways are preferred, biosecurity barriers and cleaning decontamination areas are all recommended if not necessary. And currently at 5703 Bell Road, those measures are in place. So the poultry farm is operating safely per those guides, and putting another 9-meter access on the Harris Road lot, should it be sold one day, would not only disturb that land, but also it would take up that land, and a permeable option wouldn't be recommended by those guides. And it protects the size integrity of the ALR. No land is being removed from it, no new lots are being created, and no fragmentation or isolation will occur. And it enhances the use of the ALR for farm use by protecting the barn access and water connections to come for years to come. Now, of course, we're here because the septic easement was an issue, and that is some of the reasons in support of the septic easement specifically are that the septic system on proposed lot 1 that would service proposed lot 2 via an easement is relatively new, just recently constructed. Construction of a new system would be another land disturbance that wouldn't be necessary through this proposal. It would effectively disturb twice as much land as necessary for a septic system. So this proposal would avoid that. We have confirmed that proposed lot 2, the small lot, does have enough space for a septic system. We've had a registered wastewater practitioner confirm that, so a covenant could be placed there, so a system could be built on the lot in the future if lands changed hands and the easement was done away with. And currently, of course, they're both owned by the same family, so there should be no issue having an easement. And the easement, of course, the approving officer's concerns were that the easement would exacerbate farming. Now, the location of the septic system, you could say, is already an encumbrance to farming, but the easement doesn't have to be an additional encumbrance. In fact, we talked to our surveyors who have done a lot of work in Abbotsford, and they note easement that they did for a agricultural property that's been going on for a while, that is on Township Line Road, and this is an easement. It's kind of hard to see actually the pink line, but if you look in the upper left of the property, there's a pink box, and that is a septic field which services the little corner lot on with the house via an easement. And that area has been actively farmed for over 20 years, or ish 20 years, and it's virtually indistinguishable from the rest of the property. So that's been done through careful language in the covenant, or in the easement, which ensures that there are certain clauses that say the property can still be farmed and maintained as a farm without any additional hindrances. So the location of the septic field is sort of inherently an encumbrance, but we can't change that now, but the easement wouldn't have to be. And that is all of presentation. We're here for questions.
All right, thank you. Questions of the applicant? No? Comments, motions?
I make a motion to support. I mean, it seems like it's just realigning assets, and
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Second that.
Seconded by Alex. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you. And I don't believe we have any new business, so motion to adjourn. My favorite tag team of Spencer and Matt. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you.